Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Tuesday, May 13th. My name is Cody Hand with the Speakers Collaborative, and this is our studio session where we bring amazing people from literally all over the world to talk to you about their specialty, about their lives and their development. And I'm really excited to have our guest today, who is normally from California. I'll let her talk about the rest of that. But we've got Ariella Cohen Coleman, and I'm only going to call her Ariella from now on because that's all I can get out. How's it going?
I'm delighted to be here. I'm so thrilled to know you. And yes, I think Ariella is long enough. And I'm originally from the East Coast, more recently the last few years in California, but right now in Greece,
No.
which I'm delighted about.
And what time is it in Greece?
It is 10 o'clock, and I feel a little unsure about what day and time it is in general because I've been doing a whole lot of time zone changes. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm happy to be here.
I love it. I can't wait to hear more about it. I can't wait to hear more about your adventure that brought you to this point in life. But let's start with the basics. Who are you? What do you do? Where do you live? And an interesting thing that you'd like us to know.
Oh boy. So as I mentioned, I'm Ariella. I'm from the East Coast, born in Boston, raised in Connecticut, and I moved to California about 4 or 5 years ago, which was about 9 or 10 years coming, because I have a complex health history and I discovered right after college that I felt much better on the West Coast. And so I decided then, okay, well, there's a place in the world I can feel better. I don't want to live somewhere where I feel worse, and I know I could, live elsewhere and feel better. So that got me to California, and right now I'm now in the healthiest phase of my life, which is allowing me to do a lot of travel, which is thrilling. Hence being in Greece. And interesting fact about me, which I've been sharing more often recently, is as I mentioned, I have this complex health background, which started in childhood. I was born with some things, added on some things along the way. And when I was in law school, my first year, I was misdiagnosed. This is a very long story short. I was misdiagnosed, admitted to the hospital for a week. It did not go well. Treatment was the wrong treatment. It was a very bad experience. And I have a very vague recollection of this, but I do remember feeling on fire and being quite sure that I was dying. Rescue and revive team came in. And after I did not die, I stayed up until 3 a.m. writing a brief draft that was due the next day. So stories like this kind of fill up a lot of my life. And these sorts of life experiences are some of what has led me to not only be a practicing attorney, but also have a focus on lawyer well-being, because I have not always had that focus. And I've learned the hard way that, in fact, there is a very critical connection between performance and sustainability of that high performance and your well-being.
Wow. I can't tell you, and I think I'm one of them, how many law students really suffered through law school because of what they thought they should be doing.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to couple this, and this is going to upset some folks. The lack of lawyers that walked into the room and said, you don't need to do this to yourself to be a lawyer.
Yes. I love that you said that. And in fact, that is, in a nutshell, what kind of started off my LinkedIn career, if you will. In the early phase of COVID, is when I really started posting on LinkedIn for the first time. And what I started posting about was being an attorney with rare. I say rare in quotes because it's what we now know what I have is not rare, it's just rarely diagnosed, but rare and complex chronic conditions. That's what my posts were about, because I had no examples of an attorney having any health, situation going on at all. All I've been exposed to were the very explicit and implicit messages, starting actually when I was a legal intern in college, where I was told, in different ways and shown, do not ever tell anybody about your health.
Hmm.
That'll be career suicide. And so, I, at the time, much less so now, was quite a rule follower and wanted to, do everything perfectly and do as I was told. And I didn't want to, I was super, super, super junior. And, just someone said, don't do it. And so I thought, okay, so I'll just keep that part of myself quiet and figure out the rest. Yep. And, it's not that I was looking to walk into rooms and say, hey, everybody, here's my list of diagnoses. This is what it means. This is what that entails. but, um, but still, it's a part of me. And in fact, a lot of my career has been focused on in healthcare because of personal experiences, both about myself and my dad. So my own experience with health allows me to do my job better. But
Hmm.
I was generally in situations where I was still advised, no, but don't tell anybody. That's why you know the things. And no, your personal experience. Yeah, sure, we're talking about improving patients' lives, but the fact that you're a patient with the same kind of situation, not relevant. Shh. So, yeah, and I think somewhat, my form of optimism has changed over the years. I've been thinking about this recently. I've always been very optimistic and bubbly. The bubbles have increased, but my initial form of optimism was more, I think, about just being really stubborn
Yeah.
and simply refusing to believe that I wouldn't be able to do what I wanted to do. But I had no real proof or any real examples of someone with a health story like mine
Right.
actually being able to get through, forget law school, just college and then law school and bar exams and everything, and then figure out how to have the career part of it. And so I just kind of got to a breaking point for myself of, boy, this is hard. And I feel like I can't talk to anybody about it. I feel like I can't say anything out loud. And what got me to start talking about it was the feeling that, oh, there's probably like maybe one more person out there like me. So maybe they need to hear my story and just know that I don't know how you're going to do it, but you can do it.
Yes.
And I'm, your proof.
Yeah.
The day I posted, I felt so vulnerable at the time. I was, really just, I didn't feel established in my career enough to be like taking this big risk of telling people who I am and, that I didn't have a perfect health story. And that really felt scary and possibly stupid, but I just had to do it. I couldn't not do it. And, you know, as soon as I posted, I just started getting flooded with messages
Mhm.
from, so many lawyers and law students from all around the country, people with, from other professions also. And, it's interesting for me to think about now because at the time I genuinely believed that my story was unique. That like, there were probably like maybe there was one other person out there, but we really didn't talk about it. So I thought it was really just me, which is crazy when you think about that. Of course,
Right.
but I did. And so as soon as I posted and I got all these messages, and I realized, oh, we all have something. Like this very specific details about what I have, maybe unique, but in general, the gist,
Yeah.
not unique at all.
Man,
And
you're
that,
singing my song today. I talk to people all the time, especially about the Speakers Collaborative, which, I still practice law, but this is really my passion. And somebody will come on and say, why would anybody want to hear my story?
hmm,
And you're saying exactly what I say to them. Look, your story is not unique. It's never been told by you. Somebody needs to hear you tell your version of this story. And even if it only impacts one person, you've changed a life.
yes. And that first post that a law student who had just been diagnosed with a rare brain tumor saw my post, reached out, and she said, this was the thing I needed to see today because I was just trying to figure out how the hell am I going to do this? And you
Yeah,
know what? She has since passed the bar and she's practicing.
that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
so great.
Yeah.
I am so excited to hear more from you, Ariella. And so now I'm going to take my leave and give you your solo time on stage to talk to your audience and our audience, tell your story, in hopes of encouraging others to tell their stories and to share their lives. So
Fantastic.
take it
Thank
away.
you.
I'll see you in a little while.
Cool. So I suppose continuing on with my lawyer well-being angle, from the story I shared at the beginning of when I was a first-year law student, and I was in the hospital and had a treatment go very, very wrong, could have killed me, and then I stayed up until 3 a.m. working. Now, when I think back to that story, I am really just a bit sad for myself that I thought I had to push through in that way. I don't regret it because it did get me here, but it's a lot for me to now start as a healthy person processing what I put myself through. And I have loads of stories like that. All of my stories, I've licensed in 4 states, if you count DC, and the 3 bar exams I waived into DC. My 3 bar exams that I took, I passed on the first tries, but every time I took a bar exam, I was so astoundingly sick. I mean, the stories for each bar exam they're all kind of wild, and it's incredible that I got through them. But I've had so many health challenges that I had to push through, and I was afraid to ever stop pushing out of a fear of, well, if I stop pushing, what if I can't start again? So I just pushed through everything. And when I got a concussion, my 6th concussion, hopefully last, in 2018, I believe, that was the first thing that I hadn't actually been able to push through. And that was frightening and confusing. I did try to push through the concussion for about a month, and it really did not go well. And in fact, it made me much worse. And after a month, and then my doctor telling me that I'd made myself worse by not allowing myself to acknowledge and accept that I had a head injury and that I needed to take it easy, that led me into really initially feeling very forced into taking a break. I'd never taken a break. I thought that would mean that I was weak. And such a big part of my identity was that of someone who could push through anything. That's how I'd gotten where I'd never gotten anywhere before without pushing through. So who was I if I couldn't push through this? So I was forced into taking this time off to have my head heal, my brain heal. And it ended up being one of the best things that's happened to me, because it really also forced me to pause and reassess what I was doing, what was working, what wasn't working, kind of remind myself why I'd gone to law school in the first place, what I wanted to do, what I felt my purpose was, how I wanted to live, what I wanted my lifestyle to look like, what my priorities were and what my values were, all these sorts of things that, when I was just on autopilot and moving so fast and pushing through everything, I just wasn't really able to contemplate. And so this concussion period put me into a position of just being bored out of my mind. And then after a bit, the boredom started to lead me into finding myself again, asking myself all these kinds of questions and starting to answer them. And also starting to feel creative for the first time in a really, really, really long time. And it also started to help me recognize that I didn't need to only be a lawyer, only be an attorney, or only practice law, that I could do many, many things. And I think that is one of the big pieces or situations that I went through that started to get me to kind of get myself out of the box that I'd put myself in terms of just thinking what a career is supposed to look like. And so this experience with a concussion is what led me to a little bit then down the road founding the Wellness Esquire, the aim of which is to shift the legal industry to recognize and value the connection between well-being and performance and success. A big part of why I really, tried to push through the concussion initially was just this fear of, as I mentioned earlier, I thought that if I wasn't able to push through it, that would make me weak. And what did that mean about my identity? That I couldn't just push through this and, go to work and do the things and never ever stop. I had in spite of my complex health history and doing a lot to address medical issues, I really wasn't focused at all on actual well-being and taking care of myself. My sleep was terrible for a number of reasons. I had just nothing. I was not, I remember actually having a conversation about this with another lawyer who related very much, about waking up at 5 or 5:30 in the morning to go do yoga classes so that we could check off the box of being, taking care of ourselves via yoga and, doing something good for our brains and our bodies. But by waking up at whatever it was, 5 or 5:30 in the morning, getting less sleep and not, going to bed any earlier, just adding something to do that was limiting, parts of taking care of myself. So this concussion turned into Wellness Esquire experience started to help me recognize, and very much in part because my concussion recovery program with my neurologist involved well-being kind of oriented things like meditation and mindfulness, and just a focus on the nervous system. So fast forwarding a little bit with this focus on lawyer well-being and recognizing how, so many of us are often type A, perfectionist, workaholic, and just really, really, really driven people who don't necessarily know how to slow down and take care of ourselves and think about happiness and joy and fulfillment and things that will actually improve our performance and our productivity. I started to really dig in a lot to learning about the nervous system and how to actually perform at a high level. And I started learning about how athletes do it. And athletes, obviously professional athletes, are performing at a very, very high level, and they build in rest periods. I did not do that. So I have since learned about really treating myself as more of an athlete, even in terms of the way I just show up throughout my day and with my work. And I'm actually going to be started to record podcast episodes for the Wellness Esquire, to start sharing stories of lawyers and law students, to share different ways that we take care of ourselves, the different challenges that we've gone through, and to share with each other and build a community so that we can all learn from each other, and demonstrate how much variety we actually have in our industry, and how vulnerability and authenticity really allows us, I think, to practice better and more sustainably so. I, for a time, was hosting what I called chit chat check-ins, which was an opportunity for lawyers to get together and lawyers and law students to just share bits about themselves. And I would watch people come to life when they discovered that, oh, they're not the only one in the room with anxiety or depression or PTSD or some sort of, physical health challenge or something that they were struggling with. And when they discovered that it wasn't just them, they would just, like, something turned on. And their lives started to change, and their practices started to change, and they started to live more for themselves. And so I have this vision of what if we could all kind of have a secret code of the Wellness Esquire. We see, someone has the Wellness Esquire mug or hat or, hoodie or whatever it is. Let's say it's a mug, and you see a mug in somebody's office, and you're able to go in and say, oh, hey, you're walking past someone's office, you see a Wellness Esquire mug, and you think, well, gee, maybe that person is someone I can be safe talking to about, the unethical thing that my boss just asked me to do, and now I don't know what to do about that and how to handle it. Or, I've completely overloaded and I'm being asked to do too much, and I have something going on at home that's taking a lot of my time and attention, and I just need help, managing boundaries. Maybe that's a person I can talk to for support or help. What if we weren't so afraid of looking weak or looking like we can't do it, and just owning that we're humans, and we need boundaries, and we need to take time to take care of ourselves. So I have this big focus on lawyer well-being, has really become a big part of my world in the way I operate for myself, but also in what I have really enjoyed bringing to other people, lawyers and law students and other professionals, because it had such a tremendous impact on how I live and function and operate, and how I practice. Absolutely, it's had a tremendous benefit on how I practice. And I mentioned one of my kind of visions and dreams is if we could all just have this sense of community with each other, that would allow our industry of legal professionals to figure out how to really, really flourish in a healthy way. I think most people, certainly in our industry, are very aware of the very severe impacts on mental health and addictions, and the ways that people are struggling in our industry, and it doesn't have to be that way. And I think if we could all just kind of agree one by one to help each other take care of ourselves and each other, I think there's law firms that are trying to make an impact in certain ways, but I think the more we can take on ourselves, I think that's going to be a critical part to really getting us where I think we need to be.
Absolutely. That was great. Thank you so much. I I remember, it's been a while now. I remember when I realized that I was the only one falling for the act that I was giving, that I was perfect.
Mm.
Right? I was the only one who believed the show that I didn't have any problems. None of us are perfect. And your lawyer is not perfect.
Yeah.
We're
You
humans.
know,
We do human things.
what you just said made me think of, there have been a few times when when I was right, I have my own firm now, but I've been brought in previously, to fix someone else's mistake. And every single time there was one of those occasions, I ended up learning that that mistake happened shortly before that lawyer realized that they were not okay and they needed some sort of leave.
Yep.
Um, and so, sometimes I'll share with people, really pay attention to the kinds of mistakes that you're making, because, you're going to make mistakes. That doesn't mean like you got to take time off, but for me, when I make mistakes, that makes me, take a step back and go, okay, does that mean I'm tired? Are my systems not what they need to be? Do I need to change my systems? Am I, just am I working too much? Do I need to add some boundaries? What does the mistake mean? And what do I need to do about that?
Mm-hmm.
Because it often, I've seen this, before, it often means that someone's really not okay, and it just hasn't kind of bubbled up enough to the surface to say, I'm out.
Right. Right. Wow. This is heavy, but I'm glad you're doing it. I'm really thankful. You did a little exploration of your own firm, and I love you've got a subscription model. I've got a subscription model. I love it. I don't bill by the hour. I think
Yeah.
one of the best things that a lawyer can do for their own mental health is stop doing the billable hour.
Oh my God, yes.
And it's eventually, and maybe it'll be me, eventually there's going to be a major law firm that does not have the billable hour. I can't wait for the day.
I would love to chat with you more about how you've got that set up, because I think and that's actually one of the things that I want to expose on my podcast is what are all the more innovative ways that you can structure your firm and your practice to make it work for both the lawyer and the client.
That's
and
right.
Nobody benefits from the billable hours. It's not.
That's so true.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pivot a little bit. I might know the answer to this because I get the same answer from a lot of lawyers. Are you a reader?
So I am now.
No, that's the problem is we read so much. The
Right.
last thing I want to do when I'm off is read.
So I've gone through different phases, and part of this for me was part of my health story is I had vision problems that I didn't know about. Complex. I always had like 20/20 vision, but my eyes did not work well. So the last thing I wanted to do was read for, pleasure when I was just, my eyes felt like they were just going to fall out of my head from reading what I had to read. And so I've only recently started actually reading for pleasure and also what I often am reading for pleasure is maybe not what other people would consider pleasure reading. There we are. So often, I actually have.
Oh no, The Perfectionist Guide to Losing Control.
I lost you there.
I've got you. Are you good? Yes.
Well, you did mention something about perfectionism also. This is I'm reading this now for the second time. I've never tabbed a book more. And this is fantastic. So this is genuinely it is now my favorite book. I've never felt more like an author is just like in my soul. It's just phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. And it helped me to actually develop a much healthier relationship with my sense of perfectionism for myself. I went through a phase of kind of being very proud of myself for being a recovering perfectionist. And and then I got to a point of feeling like the recovering perfectionist label wasn't working for me. In my way of describing it before was, well, I'm still striving for excellence. It's just that I don't beat myself up and think I'm an idiot if and when I make a mistake. So the recovering perfectionist part was, I'm still striving for excellence. I just am nicer to myself when something goes wrong. But it also was kind of dimming my light a little bit because it was sort of saying like, well, don't strive for so much and the biggest and the best and that's how I'm built. I'm incredibly ambitious. I'm incredibly driven. Very disciplined. So the perfectionist in me is, I like that about myself and it is part of who I am. What this author talks about in terms of sort of the healthy part is there's maladaptive perfectionism, which is you're an idiot because you made a mistake. And then there's adaptive perfectionism, which goes along more so with a growth mindset. So it's a much healthier approach.
I had to learn that. So my goal is to exceed my clients' expectations. What I had to learn was my clients don't expect perfection.
Ooh.
So exceeding their expectations does not mean absolute perfection. Oftentimes they don't know what they expect. First of all. So they don't know what perfect is. They don't know. Oh, that's so great. We got 1 minute. I want you first. Tell us where we can find you.
Oh boy. Okay. I think, so my name all over the place is Ariella Cohen Coleman. And probably the easiest thing to do is to go to my website that you have there, which then links to, my law firm, Ariella Law, the Wellness Esquire, EDS, etc., which is where I talk about my health journey and tips and tricks and how you can kind of kick ass while also living a complex life with your health. And also Chosen, which is how you and I, that context of how we connected in the first place. This is where I have, this is currently in MVP form, but Chosen is the result of my pro-Israel and pro-Jewish advocacy that started after October 7th. And the aim with Chosen is really to put Jews and allies from around the world in one place to develop meaningful relationships with each other so that we can all build and protect our community, our businesses, and careers.
We should have you back to talk about that.
I would love to do that. Thank you.
All right, so 30 seconds. Give us your last word.
Ooh, my last word. You know, I think one of my biggest lessons of recent time has been how much easier things have been for me when I've been able to let go of people pleasing and just follow my gut and do what I know is right or right for me. And I used to be such a people pleaser, and I feel like I'm like really doing well with the going in the other direction, so it can be done. And it feels good.
That is awesome. Ariella, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I hope your time has been well spent here. Mine has. I hope that you enjoy your Greek trip.
Thank you.
I know that it is 10:32 there, but I'm going to put you in the green room. If you could hang out there for a second, I want to talk to you when we're done.
I will hang. Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
Thank you so much. Everybody, my name is Cody Hand. I'm with the Speakers Collaborative. We built you a stage. And if you have a story to tell and you've been dying to get on a stage to tell it, look me up. We do this every Tuesday at 3 o'clock. If you'd like to be a guest on the studio session and get some content for your own use, send me an email, cody@codyhand.com. DM me on any social media platform, Cody R. Hand. And until next time, have a great day. Do you want to tell your story? Stop sitting on the sidelines. We built a stage. Get on it.